All right. Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about going old school and fighting with presence. All right. Okay. So right now, there's a huge debate going on in America. People are saying, "Hey, right now, every single adult American, whether you are military trained or whether you are Fortnite trained or whether you are zero trained, right? Every single adult American is under request right now by by the global hero President Volodymyr Zelensky to fight for freedom where it matters right now, to stop global villainy in its tracks right now in Ukraine. That's new. This has not happened before, right? People are like, "Oh, Scott, that's a mercenary." No, you are not paying attention. Volodymyr Zelensky did not offer pay. There were people by the thousands who responded to his request to come to Ukraine without being offered one single penny. There were people who paid for their own trip and took their passport and went off to fight immediately with nothing promised, right? We are in a world of heroism and villainy. Our world has fundamentally changed. And people keep, and this is the issue, right? Do you understand the changes that are happening around you? Or do you have your head stuck in the sand and keep telling yourself the world hasn't changed so that you can pretend that you're not under request, right? Like so that you don't have to change. It's always the same, right? Do you accept what's happening in the world, right? And modify your behavior, modify your thought, modify your language, or do you try to clutch on to your old stodgy ways and make sure that you don't need to change? We're all under request right now. Every adult American is under request to fight for freedom and to fight to stop global villainy. He extended this weeks ago, right? We're all under request now, right? So every American is now saying, do I stop global villainy? Do I get ready to fight? Do I go over there and fight tomorrow? Do I get ready to fight here when Vladimir Putin shows up here? Because no one can tell me that he's stopping at Ukraine because no one actually knows what he's doing. That it seems incredibly clear. It's incredibly clear, right? That that he is making moves people didn't expect, right? So basically, there's this question: what do you need to fight? Right? What do you need to fight tomorrow? What do you need to fight 3 months from now when Vladimir Putin shows up on our doorstep? Right? And people are putting their opinions in, right? And one of the most popular opinions right now is, "Oh, Scott, you got to be U.S. military trained to fight," right? But here's the issue: you're not thinking about the old school, and I'm not talking old school American old school. I'm talking old school, old school. So let's get into it. All right. So what is old school fighting? All right. So first of all, I'm going to explain to you the power of the old school and what can be done when it emerges. Okay. All right. So basically, our church is going through a change right now, a pretty significant change. So we lost our worship leader. Guess when? A week after March 2020. Right? Actually, it was a little longer than that. It was March 2020. The mask problem forced everybody, right, to. Actually, our church was shut down. Literally, they chose to close the doors and everything shut, and our worship leader never returned. Right? All right. Yeah. Okay. It was frustrating, right? So then we had an interim worship team leader, and that was for like a year, right? And then they added 3 months onto the interim service, right? And finally, we just got our new worship leader. Brilliant guy. He comes in, right? Week 1, he plays the piano, right? Everybody's like, "Oh, that was nice, thanks," right? Week 3, you know what he did? It's incredible. Everybody in the church was stunned, young and old, right? He walked over to the right side of the dais, the right side of where the pulpit is, right, which is on a 3-foot dais, right? And he walked over to the right side, and we're like, "What's he going over there for? There's nothing over there." And he sat down at the organ, which hadn't been touched for 25 years, right? Right. It hadn't been played for like 25 years. Now, I'm sure like the week before he got it ready and make sure but we were all shocked, and he went, brah, 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 and the church shook, right? Like it was like you could feel it in your belly, right? He went old school, right? First of all, none of us knew he could play the organ. Second of all, none of us knew what the organ sounded like, right? And none of us knew that it would shake the church and you would feel it in your belly, right? It was old school, right? He just completely mic dropped. It was crazy, right? And it was a moment. It was a moment in the church, right? It was old school, right? So here's the issue, right? What is old school fighting, right? Way back before the American Revolution. Fighting with presence. What do you need to fight? You need to be present, and that is it, okay? You want me to prove it to you? Well, so on Friday of last week, Vladimir Putin bombed a Russian, Vladimir Putin in Mariupol, Ukraine, bombed a movie theater being used as a shelter, right? Mariupol had 300,000 people in it, and hundreds of people were like, hey, there's the movie theater that we all saw Spider-Man No Way Home in. Let's go in there and shelter. And they were like, well, and there are other people who are like, this is dangerous, so we'd better take steps to make sure that nobody will bomb this place. Why don't we write, because there are children here, why don't we write the word children 10 feet high in white paint, right? And so they did. Like, and you can look this up. You'll see the shots, right? Like, and so they wrote children 10 feet high, right? Vladimir Putin, because his villainy has no limits, bombed that theater, right? Those people there were fighters who were fully equipped and fully trained. There were people there who had no military training and no equipment, and they were fighting with presence. They were saying, hey, use conscript over there. I know you don't want to be here, right? You desperately want to run home, and you do not want to be here. I will never leave. Their presence did the fighting, right? And when they paid the 10-pint price, right, for refusing to give up their land to a global villain, right, they attached a weight to Putin that he will never escape, ever, right? That is fighting with presence. All you need to fight is presence. It's being proven every single day, right? And the reality is, increasingly, each of us are looking and saying, what can I do to fight when the time comes, right? And increasingly, I feel like the voices that are saying, you're not qualified to fight. I don't want you to remember that your American farmer ancestor who had a goat and a garden hoe defeated the greatest villain on the planet, King George III. I want you to forget who you are. I want you to forget the red, white, and blue bald eagle blood that runs through your veins. I want you to forget that you're powered by freedom, and I want you to remember that you're a coward like me. You choose. You choose who tells you what, right? Don't let anybody attach you to their cowardice. Be ready to fight. We all need to get ready. It's time, right? And if you're and this is all for Americans, that's the only people I'm talking to. If you're an American, our ancestors our American farmer ancestors beat the greatest villain on the planet with nothing but goats and nothing but a goat and a garden hoe. We are dyed in the wool, ready for this. We have a history for it, and you can fight with you can fight with no equipment and no training, with your presence alone. Right? Be ready for it. That's my opinion. What's your opinion? Love to hear it. Thanks. Please consider liking and subscribing.